time?
It is time for us to do what we have been doing, and that time is every day.
We'll know in a very short period of time, but it looks like it could be something that will be not good. Believe me, not good.
I see issue with that. And again, hey.
You're not going to be able to insult your way to the presidency. That's not going to happen.
I don't know who created Pokemon Go, but I'm trying to figure out how we get them to have Pokemon go to the polls.
I'm Ted Cruz, and my pronoun is kiss my ass.
So when you think about it, there is great significance to the passage of time in terms of what we need to do to lay these wires, what we need to do to create these jobs.
America is a nation that can be defined in a single word. I was going to foot.
Not good. Believe me, not good.
Hello, dissidents. Welcome one and all to a Thursday midday edition of the Do Dissidents podcast. Keaton Weiss here with Russell Dobular, of course. What happened? You're muted. Something. You hit your microphone. You must have turned your microphone off.
Hello.
There you are. All right. I lost my papers. I don't know what the hell happened. Now,
Katie's producer told me there's a way to shut that off.
Oh yeah,
like shut off the whole ring on the mic. There.
Right. Okay. Found my papers.
You got your papers?
Yeah. So ice. Don't worry about it. I got my papers.
All right.
Forget I said that.
Hey man, they just grabbed a U.S. citizen out of his house the other day.
Yep.
Kept this motherfucker for 48 hours.
Insane times. It's insane that so insane that stories like that, insane stories like that, fly under the radar. That's how crazy everything is.
I'm telling you, it's wild palms, man. They're normalizing an SUV pulling up and grabbing people.
Yeah.
While everyone just goes on with their salad.
That's right. All right. Well, hey, thanks to everybody for joining us for a very, very, very busy week. This is the end of it for us. Brianna's show, Katie's show, Jimmy's show, and this one all in the last 5 days. So thanks everybody for sticking with us. We had a great time on the Jimmy Dore show last night. Those clips are dropping today. A lot of them are already up on Rumble, and they'll be coming out on YouTube as the day progresses. We encourage you to take a look at that. But we have a lot to get to today, so why don't we jump right into things?
I was distracted because somebody said this in the chat, so I looked it up. Yes, NYC mayor. I'm a little surprised Adams, through his support behind this, is supporting a bill to ban the carriages.
Oh, interesting.
The horse and carriages in NYC. Dude, this has been going on for 20 years. I'm surprised it hasn't happened already. If Adams is backing this, I've got to look into it more. The writing has been on the wall for a long time in that industry.
Well, what are you going to do?
What are you going to do? All right.
Very good.
All right. Very good. Very well. So you might remember J.D. Vance gave a rousing speech at the EU. So many people were so excited at this new sweet air of freedom being ushered in by this administration. A lot of people chose to ignore what he didn't mention, his glaring omission of all the pro-Palestine protesters and journalists that had been harassed, arrested, held on specious terrorism charges. Julian Assange, none of that was mentioned in his speech. All he wanted to talk about were Christian conservatives praying outside abortion clinics, which, to be clear, people should be free to express themselves. But he said more by what he didn't say, but a lot of people ignored that. A lot of the same people that are now starting to criticize what the Trump administration's real agenda was, which I would argue was evident in what they didn't say in that speech.
Government encouraged private companies to silence people who dared to utter
what turned out to be an obvious truth. So I come here today not just with an observation, but with an offer. And just as the Biden administration seemed desperate to silence people for speaking their minds, so the Trump administration will do precisely the opposite, and I hope that we can work together on that. In Washington, there is a new sheriff in town, and under Donald Trump's leadership, we may disagree with your views, but we will fight to defend your right to offer it in the public square, agree or disagree.
Oh, is that right?
Wow. That sounds good. That sounds really good. Yeah, we were kind of a lonely voice there pointing out the elephant in the room that these people are clearly full of shit given their posture towards college campuses and so on. And very quickly, it escalated beyond college campuses. Jimmy Kimmel Live replaced with Charlie Kirk tribute on Sinclair's ABC stations. Company demands Kimmel apologize and donate to Kirk's family and Turning Point USA. Now, this is for a monologue. These are the comments from Monday night that led ABC to pull Jimmy Kimmel Live this afternoon. So he is no longer on the air. They're floating as a condition of getting his job back, donating this money, but it's still not clear that he would get back on the air. So we have to go audio only because of copyright. It's about a minute of footage.
New lows over the weekend with the MAGA gang desperately trying to characterize this kid who murdered Charlie Kirk as anything other than one of them and doing everything they can to score political points from it. In between the finger pointing, there was grieving. On Friday, the White House flew the flags at half staff, which got some criticism. But on a human level, you can see how hard the president is taking this.
My condolences on the loss of your friend Charlie Kirk. May I ask, sir, personally, how are you holding up over the last day and a half, sir?
I think very good. And by the way, right there, you see all the trucks? They've just started construction of the new ballroom for the White House, which is something they've been trying to get, as you know, for about 150 years. And it's going to be a beauty.
Yes. He's at the fourth stage of grief, construction. Demolition, construction. This is not how an adult grieves the murder of someone he called a friend. This is how a 4-year-old mourns a goldfish.
Okay. We're not fans of Jimmy Kimmel around here. But that was certainly, and hey, we're free speech advocates. It wouldn't really matter what he said if it was within the bounds of the First Amendment. Pushing him off the air over it would not be acceptable. Using the weight of the government to do that would not be acceptable. Part of what's so shocking about this is what he said was so innocuous. When I heard about this, I assumed he did a milder version of Destiny's Scorched Earth ranting directed at Charlie Kirk and his family. It's nothing like that. It's nothing like that. He calls it a murder. He doesn't seem unsympathetic. This is really a monologue about Trump. Now, they're ignoring that part of it. They're claiming because he claimed that he was MAGA, that's misinformation. That would be a specious basis to go after a news anchor. He's a comedian. He has no obligation to fact check his jokes. And is that really the world that we want to live in? And frankly, he went kind of easy on it, because if I had been doing that monologue, I certainly would have included this. Hours after watching Charlie Kirk die, Trump was dancing at a baseball game. This is from a conservative account. I am still emotionally a mess. This guy, his friend, in quotes, is dancing at a game. We actually have some video about that, of Trump doing his famous traditional wealth two-cock stance that he's famous for, where he jerks the two cocks. His very famous dance step there. Let's see him do it. Yeah, there he is. There he is, milking those two pigs' cuds. We'll pull that down in case they flag it for copyright.
Don't want to get fucked by the village people.
But apparently our illustrious leader does.
Well, the other thing, if I could just make one point too, he didn't really say that the shooter, like when I heard that he said the shooter was MAGA, I assumed he actually came out and said that, which would have been a falsehood. He didn't exactly say that. What he said was they're
which
trying
doesn't really
to
matter, but yeah.
Well, you could say that that's a
but
pretty
it's
egregious
still, but it's
lie.
still, we're not going to concede that he wouldn't have the right to be wrong.
Of course,
he has
I'm
that
not saying
right.
that, but what
He
I'm
has
saying
that right.
is, what I'm saying is, it wasn't even that. It was he said that they're trying to make it sound like this is anything but one of theirs, alluding to the fact that he had Christian conservative parents. Like it was spin, like it was liberal spin by a liberal comic, which is par for the course on these late night shows. It was nothing. It wasn't even really out of the ordinary for what he does. The only thing you might claim is a little distasteful is making a joke, making jokes at all about the Charlie Kirk affair. But the thing is, I mean, Donald Trump reacted in a way that just was ridiculous with the whole, we're getting along very well and the ballroom's going great. Like that's a ridiculous reaction. So what do you want?
Yes, right. Exactly. Well, that is what I think is part of what's so shocking to people, because what he did, making fun of the president, whose reaction was indeed bizarre and insensitive, because guess what? He's a fucking psychopath. He's a psychopath. He doesn't care that Charlie Kirk was murdered. He doesn't care about that. So he doesn't think anything of dancing at a baseball game. He's going to act like he cares when the cameras are on him, specifically dealing with that subject. If he's at a memorial, he's going to pretend he cares. If your friend died, would you have it in your heart to be at a baseball game jerking off two dicks, giving air hand jobs at a baseball game? Would you do that? No, that's a psychopath. He doesn't care what happened to Charlie Kirk. Clearly, they asked him about it, and his psychopath's instinct took over there. He didn't do the thing. Oh yeah, I feel really bad. You see the ballroom? That's who he is. He is a psychopath. He is a psychopath. He will tell people what they want to hear, but he's not actually emotionally connected. He doesn't have actual empathy. So he forgot. He forgot to pretend in those moments that he actually cared about this. He knows politically he should act like he cares, but it's very hard to pretend to care when you don't care 24 hours a day, to pretend to care about things that you don't actually care about. So the mask slipped. That's my reading of his behavior. So what Kimmel said, that's actually some of the better work I've seen from Kimmel, because he's actually addressing a real thing that's really worthy of a comedian's attention and mockery. That's really not liberal spin. That is as plain as the nose on your face that his behavior was very strange there for someone claiming to care. Kimmel's cancellation confirms what many suspected after Colbert's. Media companies must punish Trump critics if they want their mega mergers approved. We'll get back to that. Let's rewind a little bit. This was after Colbert got fired. I absolutely love that Colbert got fired. His talent was even less than his ratings. I hear Jimmy Kimmel is next. Wow, he's like Nostradamus. It's incredible how he predicted that way. Has even less talent than Colbert. Greg Gutfeld is better than all of them combined, including the moron on NBC who ruined the once great Tonight Show. Well, you hear that? He's coming for you, man. He's coming for you. Jimmy Fallon's next. So right after that, it was maybe a week, 10 days, Trump administration green lights Paramount's $8 billion merger with entertainment group Skydance. Now, that merger was pending at the time that they fired Colbert, and a lot of people believe, and it seems certainly to be the case, that among other concessions they made, that was a deal sweetener, firing Colbert. This is just this week. You want to see how, some people might say, well, but there really is liberal bias at these networks. Yeah, I mean, and there's a conservative bias at Fox. It's not like there's no balancing contrary media ecosystem, even if you want to make that argument. Like if you're going to start arguing all the public airwaves have to lack bias, well, you have to go after Fox as well, right? They have an FCC license.
Right.
CBS News hired a Trump loyalist to monitor political bias and is bringing in another to guide their editorial direction. This is after Trump extorted Paramount for $16 million to approve their $8 billion merger with Skydance, the freedom of speech president. So this is just this week. So this is their idea of bringing balance back to the news. CBS News has hired Kenneth Weinstein as its new ombudsman, charged with receiving and evaluating any complaints of bias or other concerns involving CBS. He will report directly to Jeff Shell, the president of Paramount, the parent company of CBS News. Paramount pledged to create the position at CBS News when the Trump administration approved its merger with Skydance, a movie studio and entertainment company. Weinstein, the former president of the Hudson Institute, a right-wing think tank, has no experience producing or overseeing news coverage. Okay, so this is not, you can't even make the argument, yeah, but there really is bias. Well, they don't care about that. They just want their bias. They're not trying to restore objective, balanced news coverage, obviously. So a little more about the merger from the Washington Post article. In the least surprising news in the world, this is this merger that ABC has pending. Nexstar is seeking approval from President Donald Trump's FCC to acquire Tegna, another media company. The $6.2 billion deal would transform Nexstar Tegna into an unprecedented mega company whose reach would grow to 80% of U.S. households. There's a hitch. A long-standing broadcasting rule prevents any one company from reaching more than 39% of U.S. households. So Nexstar doesn't just need the FCC's approval, it also needs the FCC to change that rule or the deal can't go through. Luckily for Nexstar, FCC Chairman Brandon Carr has signaled he's open to ending, quote, arcane artificial limits, unquote, on station ownership. But just a few hours before Nexstar announced it was pulling Kimmel, guess who went on conservative commentator Benny Johnson's podcast to blast Kimmel and threaten that there were avenues here for the FCC if companies didn't take action? Carr. All right, so Benny in the closet is very, very proud of his role in this. This is what got Kimmel fired. Right here, watch. It's called soft power. The left uses it all the time. Thanks to President Trump, the right has learned how to wield power as well. Brendan Carr is the most consequential FCC chairman in American history.
Yeah, this is soft power.
Yeah, this is very soft.
Soft power is Benny Johnson's signature sex move. That's what soft power is.
Yes, here's Benny in the Closet's interview with Carr very shortly before Jimmy Kimmel got fired.
Look at the conduct that has taken place by Jimmy Kimmel. It appears to be some of the sickest conduct possible. As you've indicated, there are avenues here for the FCC. So there are some ways in which I need to be a little bit careful, because we could be called ultimately to be a judge on some of these claims that come up. But I don't think this is an isolated incident. I mean, you go back to Representative Swalwell, and he had a tweet out last week where he was saying that, emphasizing that Charlie Kirk's killer was a straight white male from a Republican family that voted for Donald Trump. In some quarters, there's a very concerted effort to try to lie to the American people about the nature, as you indicate, of one of the most significant, newsworthy public interest acts that we've seen in a long time. And what appears to be an action by Jimmy Kimmel to play into that narrative that this was somehow a MAGA or Republican motivated person. If that's what happened here with his conduct, that is really, really sick. And I've been very clear from the moment that I have become chairman of the FCC, I want to reinvigorate the public interest in. What people don't understand is that the broadcasters, and you've gotten this right, are entirely different than people that use other forms of communication. They have a license granted by us at the FCC, and that comes with it an obligation to operate in the public interest. And we can get into some ways that we've been trying to reinvigorate the public interest and some changes that we've seen. But frankly, when you see stuff like this, I mean, look, we can do this the easy way or the hard way. These companies can find ways to change conduct, to take action, frankly, on Kimmel, or, you know, there's going to be additional work for the FCC ahead.
Okay. You know, he did an interview with Glenn under the Biden administration, which Glenn pulled up today. Brendan Carr, as FCC commissioner, vocally condemned Biden administration's pressure threats toward big tech and cable outlets to censor. Now, as FCC chair, he threatened outlets to remove Kimmel. Now Kimmel praises Nexstar with a $6 billion merger pending for compliance. He told me this last year. Let's take a look.
Could be some minimal role there, as you articulated, but I think what we've seen over the last couple of years, in particular the Biden-Harris administration, is they just blew past any possible line in the sand that could be legitimately drawn. The evidence that's been brought to bear shows that not only were they flagging just pure political speech, satire, memes, but they did so with a clenched fist, meaning they made very clear that the Biden administration's continued defense of 230 protections, which are protections, whether you like them or not, that big tech has benefited from, that those were at risk. They made clear that they were looking at anti-competitive, antitrust action. So at the same time that they were sort of going beyond merely flagging certain types of posts, they were going right to political speech, and they were doing so with a carrot and a stick right there. There's an entire line of Supreme Court cases called actually the jawboning line of cases, where if you're a federal official and you are pressuring a private entity to censor another private entity, well, then effectively the First Amendment is in fact invoked. I think that this is one where Justice Alito on our Supreme Court in dissent was right in one of these recent cases where the majority said, we don't think there's enough there to really demonstrate that there was sort of official government pressure that crossed the line. Yeah, we've covered.
Okay. So this is kind of a microcosm of the whole grift that Trump and the MAGA administration, the MAGA people, the core of them, the people who are actually in power, not the rank and file voters, they ran a scam on people. They pretended that they had some kind of strict constitutional adherence to freedom of speech, in contrast to these cancel culture woke Democrats. And as you saw in the Vance speech in the EU, new sheriffs in town. Now, again, it was very obvious what the grift was from that speech, rather than I don't understand. A lot of people who should have known better focused on what he said instead of what he didn't say. And what he didn't say actually said a lot more, as we can see playing out in real time right now. But you can see, look at what Carr's saying there. He sounds like, okay, well, he's a conservative. I don't agree with him on a lot of things, but he believes in the Constitution, not like these woke Democrats. Yeah, they bullshitted you. They completely bullshitted you. He said something completely different when they were out of power to Glenn and trying to peel away some voters. This is something where you have to say they're politically far more astute than Democrats are. You have the Democrats running around talking about how should we try to win over Trump voters? Thomas Frank has talked a lot about how crazy that is, like they're tainted goods. The MAGA people understood, there are a lot of disaffected leftists who, if you talk this kind of freedom of speech shit, they hate the Democrats so much. A lot of these ex-Bernie people who will come over and vote for Trump. That's what that's about. They bullshitted you. They lied to you.
Yep.
Do you want to say anything before I go on?
No, I'll wait till the end if you got more.
Okay. So leading into this decision, this was not the only overt, tacit, implicit, and explicit threats that were made to these networks. Trump tweeted this out August 25th. Truthed it out. Despite a very high popularity and according to many, among the greatest 8 months in presidential history. ABC and NBC fake news, two of the worst and most biased networks in history, give me 97% bad stories. If that is the case, they are simply an arm of the Democratic Party and should, according to many, have their licenses revoked by the FCC. I would be totally in favor of that because they are so biased and untruthful, an actual threat to our democracy. MAGA! Okay. All right. So for an example of what Donald Trump's idea of objective news would be, very high popularity. This just dropped, actually. 39% of Americans strongly or somewhat approve of Donald Trump's job performance as president, while 57% disapprove. The 39% of Americans who approve of Trump is the lowest share to do so in any Economist YouGov poll in Trump's second term. This week. This is, I think, the 12th to the 15th. The 57% who disapprove is the most to do so in Trump's second term. Trump's net approval rating, the share who approve minus the share who disapprove, is -18, the lowest of his second term. Trump's -18 net approval is also the second lowest net approval Trump has received in any Economist YouGov poll in either of his 2 terms today. He's very popular. So what do networks like CBS is shaping up to be, run by Trump loyalists, and with Trump loyalists basically installed as political commissars, controlling editorial decisions at the network? What do you think it looks like? You're just not going to hear about this, or they'll lie about it. They'll cherry pick some numbers to claim he's popular. And if you want to say, well, he truthed that out 3 weeks ago, you could see his approval on every issue has been plunging in a straight line since he took office. He was not much better off in his approval rating in August when he truthed that out than he is now. And here he is. This got a little bit of attention. This seems particularly significant now. This was just a few days ago. He seemed to tacitly threaten ABC specifically in a question to answering a question from a reporter.
Pam Bondi's saying she's going to go after hate speech. Is that, I mean, a lot of your allies say hate speech is free speech.
She'll probably go after people like you because you treat me so unfairly. It's hate. You have a lot of hate in your heart.
It's hate.
Maybe they'll come after ABC. Well, ABC paid me $16 million recently for a form of hate speech, right? Your company paid me $16 million for a form of hate speech. So maybe they'll have to go after you.
So all of that was going on in the lead up to them taking Kimmel off the air with a merger pending. So Benny in the closet here, very excited. As soon as the news broke, quote tweets Nexstar's press release. Official ABC broadcast affiliate Nexstar is removing Jimmy Kimmel from all 32 of their ABC stations until Disney answers for Kimmel's despicable attack on Charlie Kirk. Okay, you want to talk about enemies of the people? A piece of garbage like Benny in the closet, who will do whatever his paymasters tell him to do. And believe me, that cat is getting paid, not just from his subscribers or his patrons. There is definitely money behind Benny in the closet, and whatever narrative they have, he will spout. He doesn't care if he destroys your free speech rights. He doesn't care what he does to exacerbate tensions that are verging on low-grade civil war at this point. He doesn't care as long as he's getting paid. You heard what Kimmel said. Was there a despicable attack on Charlie Kirk in there? Not at all. Not at all. There was an attack on Donald Trump, which even they have to concede is in bounds. So they have to lie and make it as if he attacked Charlie Kirk, which he obviously did not. So this is what Nexstar sent out in their press release. This was their statement. Mr. Kimmel's comments about the death of Mr. Kirk are offensive and insensitive. He didn't talk about his death. He didn't talk about it. At a critical time in our national political discourse, and we do not believe they reflect the spectrum of opinions, views, or values of the local communities in which we are located, said Andrew Alford, president of Nexstar's broadcasting division. Continuing to give Mr. Kimmel a broadcast platform in the communities we serve is simply not in the public interest at the current time, and we have made the difficult decision to preempt his show in an effort to let cooler heads prevail as we move toward the resumption of respectful, constructive dialogue. Brendan Carr tweeted out, I want to thank Nexstar for doing the right thing. This is like the Nazi commandant when the town surrenders. Local broadcasters have an obligation to serve the public interest. While this may be an unprecedented decision, it is important for broadcasters to push back on Disney programming that they determine falls short of community values. I hope that other broadcasters follow Nexstar's lead. You say you got a bunch of broken middle-aged white men who are going to lead us into fascism because they put lesbians in Star Wars.
Yes, that's about right.
Donald Trump, great news for America. The ratings challenge Jimmy Kimmel show is canceled. Congratulations to ABC for finally having the courage to do what had to be done. Kimmel has zero talent and worse ratings than even Colbert, if that's possible. That leaves Jimmy and Seth, two total losers on fake news NBC. Their ratings are also horrible. Do it, NBC. President Donald J. Trump. Do they have it? I don't think they have any mergers pending. So we'll see how that goes. Wu-Tang is for the children. Trump wanted Kimmel gone because he didn't like getting made fun of. The ABC affiliate saw an opening with Kimmel's Charlie Kirk statement and pulled the show because they need Trump's okay for a merger. It was just billionaires doing favors for each other. Big club and you ain't in it, baby. Impure Hunter. I'm perfectly okay with Kimmel being taken off the air for being profoundly unfunny. Let the market do its thing. I'm not a fan of the state getting involved at all. That is our position. I think I can speak for my partner there. And Glenn quote tweeted that. This shouldn't be a complicated or difficult dichotomy to understand. Jimmy Kimmel is repulsive, but the state has no role in threatening companies to fire on-air voices it dislikes or who the state believes is spreading disinformation, which is exactly what happened here. Yes. And it's funny when you look at this mass media consolidation, it already drastically consolidated because of the Clinton administration's repealing of, I can't remember the name of the act, but he repealed
the telecommunications, or no, that was the name. Yeah.
That was the name of the act. He repealed the laws that did not allow networks to own newspapers, which really helped the media to consolidate into, used to be over 100 companies own the media. Now it's 6 major companies. And now it looks like you're going to get down to 2 or 3. It is funny how much the society is shaping up to look like what we were told totalitarian communism looks like. You're going to have this mass consolidation of state-run media where everything is run by the central planning committee, by the dear leader, by the premier, before it goes on the air. I mean, this is exactly what they said communism would lead to, and that's very much what this is starting to look like. Hey, right, left, all that shit, that goes out the window, man. This is an all hands on deck moment. And to give credit where it's due, we covered the Pam Bondi story. A lot of conservatives spoke out against that. The Benny in the closets, that's a fair contingent. They're really scum and completely compromised, obviously. And it's not that I would trust these conservatives on a lot of other freedom issues. Some of them are speaking out. There's a moment where we need all hands on deck. Everyone has to be speaking out on this. Do I really think that's going to happen? Frankly, no. I think we're moving into a very dark time where America is gonna be a fascist country. They are building step by step, brick by brick. They're building all of the elements that make up a fascist society.
Right. So if you look at the poll there that came out, Trump's favorability rating at the lowest point of the second term, yeah, that was taken entirely post
Charlie Kirk.
Charlie Kirk, because it is evident to most people that Donald Trump is neither interested in nor capable of turning the temperature down, getting people to chill out, and pulling back from the brink of plunging into what could be some very dark and dangerous times. And most people don't like that. Yeah. And the way you're going to pull back from that is by convincing even more and more and more people that this is just not an acceptable way to go. And, you know, I think that a large part of how we got here, and I've been talking about this all week, is that the left has presented itself in ways that are very alienating to ordinary people, and they have drained a lot of goodwill out of their faction of the society.
Right. That's why Carr, just to interject, that's why Carr and other people like him were able to plausibly present the right wing as speech warriors.
Well, yes, of course. I mean, who got canceled this week? You have Destiny, which I wouldn't compare anyone else to him. I mean, he's just shockingly vile, suggesting that the widow's tears were fake while she was speaking about her husband the day after he got killed, right? So that's just like otherworldly insanity. Kimmel, you got a guy like Kimmel who 4 years ago got up on the stage and joked very gleefully about how, in fact, I don't even think this was a joke. I think he actually meant this. He presented this in a humorous way, that, people who didn't want to take the vaccine should be denied treatment at a hospital and that they should die. What did he say? Good luck, Wheezy.
Good luck, Wheezy,
Yeah, exactly. So when you present yourself in that way, you alienate people to the point where they become sort of incapable of putting principle ahead of their emotional reactions to things. You know, this is how a guy like Trump gets in power in the first place. You have Democrats fretting about norms and guardrails and precedents, and you have large swaths of the country saying, well, what have these norms and guardrails and precedents done for me? Nothing. Right. So what do I care about them? Nothing. Right. So we'll roll the dice with this guy. Yeah, in principle, he says a lot of things I don't like, but fuck it, what the hell? What we're doing is not working. And I think that, you give the authoritarians a lot of room to operate when you present yourself in a way that is so alienating to the average person, which is why I believe when you look at numbers like that and you look at the fact that most people understand that this administration has no interest in pulling us back from the brink, the way to pull back from the brink is to appeal to them. Appeal to them. Don't make it a difficult choice. Don't give them the opportunity to say, well, yeah, I'm not for this kind of censorship and deplatforming, but could you believe what that fucking scumbag said about Charlie Kirk's widow? Now you're making it a calculation, right? If you just reject the people like Destiny, and to a lesser extent Kimmel, he's not as bad as Destiny, I'm not putting him there. Although the stuff about the unvaccinated was pretty fucking awful, right? It's not quite as off the fuck. I mean, that's just whatever. Don't want to repeat myself. But don't make it a tough call. Don't make it a tough call. Most people do not want to live in a society where their, late night TV hosts are getting canceled for making jokes. So, I would say this is an opportune time for us to think about how we actually get out of this. Because, we can speak up and say, this is wrong, this is terrible. A lot of us have. We're doing it right now. You know what? Doesn't matter. They did it. They did it because they have power in this moment. There is no escaping that. The only way to change this is to change the power dynamic. The only way to change the power dynamic is to own the center and appeal to most people and create a wave of opposition to this That seems reasonable to most people. And don't tell me it can't work. It has worked. The boycott bills have tanked because public opposition to them was very pronounced and one-sided. The people who they sent to CCOT, they had to let out of CCOT because 80% of the country was against that. So, on the one hand, yeah, you could say I'm being doom and gloom because I am articulating accurately, in my opinion, the cataclysmic and dire nature of this moment. But I also think that succumbing to raw emotional reactions and hot takes is a form of surrender. You may think of that as a form of resistance, but it's not, because what you're doing is you're giving these people the opportunity to say, yeah, you might not love what we're doing, but look at these fucking freaks. You don't want to do that. You don't want to do that. It's just not a good thing to do.
That's how they got in office. That's how
exactly. That's how they got in office. Right.
I mean, if you watched that Madison Square Garden rally and did not think of idiocracy, it's only because the libs made it easy to see them as worse.
Right. Exactly. 100%. 100%. All right, let's go to some super chats. We got a big crowd in here. 2192 here in the YouTube chat. And 512 likes. Let's smash that like button. Let's get the 666 before the next segment, shall we? I think we can make that happen with 2,200 of you in here. 497 filing in over on Rumble. Smash that like button, everybody. Thanks for being here today. All right, let's take a look at what we got over here. Michael Castillo says, good afternoon, gentlemen. Bill Ackman owns 5% of the Tel Aviv Stock Exchange. His loyalty is to Israel over America. Free Palestine. Thank you, Michael Castillo. Does he? I'm not sure. I didn't know that. Mark Pugliese says, is dystopia unrolling piecemeal? Yes. Yes, it is.
Yep.
Thank you.
That was easy. Thanks.
Easy one. Brick Top says he did talk about his death. Jimmy said Charlie was killed by MAGA supporter. You dumb. No, that's what the tweet said he said, but that's not what he said. We played what he said.
Right.
Assuming that's all of it.
He said they're trying desperately to make it about this, even though, well, I think he did.
No, what he said was, no, look, he did, like, I'm not denying he spun it. He spins everything. He's a liberal-oriented comedian. So, no, he definitely spun it. He said they're trying to make this about everyone but them, and then pointing to the fact that he had MAGA parents. So, yeah, did he spin it in that way? Yeah, absolutely. And I'm not, nobody's here to defend Jimmy Kimmel on the merits. He didn't say what they said he said, which would have been an outright lie. Now, even in that case, he could say, well, look, I made a mistake. I issue a retraction. Like, there are ways to clean that up without firing him. Firing him is an extreme reaction to even something like that, I believe. But that's not quite what he said. He engaged in the same kind of spin that he always does.
Right.
Unfortunately for him, and this is what I've been saying all week, I think there are a lot of people out there who are underestimating the severity of this moment and thinking, what the hell, I'll go out there and I'll just do my shtick. It's not going to fly in times like this. It's just not. And boy, did that get proven right.
Yeah, and what he said was not particularly egregious. And I would ask you, you think this is about what he said? Are you dumb? Are you dumb? They just did this with Colbert. What Colbert said.
Yeah, they just did it with Colbert.
There's a merger pending.
Right.
And
exactly. They were going to do it anyway.
Yeah, they were going to do this to sweeten the deal. And you don't think this is extremely dangerous to speak? Do you like to watch shows like this? Well, maybe not ours after this, but do you like to watch shows like this in general? You think they're not going to come for these kinds of shows? They're going after these big network things. We're just too small for them to care about right now. Just like right now, they're going after the immigrants, then they'll go after the homeless, then they're going after you. Are you dumb? Are you dumb that you think that's the relevant part of this story? That's pretty dumb, man. Think about it.
That's not the relevant part of the story. They were going to do this. What they did to Colbert was the blueprint for this, because there was this merger pending, right? So the wheels were in motion. He'd have said something at some point. That's what he does every night.
This gave them the excuse.
It gave them the excuse. Exactly. And look, I've been saying all week, try not to give them excuses in this moment, because the public is going to be against this shit. The public is going to see that they have no interest in avoiding a civil war. And there's nothing we could do about it today because they have the power today. But the way you change that is by appealing to the humanity of the average person. That is my opinion. I haven't seen any development this past week that has taken me off that message. I'm an open-minded guy. I'd change my mind if I thought, hey, you know what? I got to recalculate. I haven't seen that. Because where you've seen people try and push the envelope with hot takes, it's blown up in their face, every single one of them, one by one. And the people who I respect most in this space as like activists who actually do the work of building power for ordinary people, they've kept their mouths shut about this. And I suspect they keep their mouth shut about this because they feel similarly to me. Like, yeah, in principle, everything everybody's saying, fine, okay, you don't have power right now, which means your principle doesn't mean anything right now. Not today. Not today. If you live through today to see tomorrow, it can mean something then. And that's the best chance you got at this point. I'm sorry. Like, it's not a good position to be in. Not a good position to be in. I'm not, I'm not here to say, like, hey, no worries, just we'll ride this out. No. This is scary shit. This is really scary shit. And I don't know if the odds are with us or against us. I'm not sure about that, honestly. But I could tell you that keep pushing it in times like these. You're only going to dig yourself a bigger hole. That's my opinion. And I think that's been validated. Hey, we got a very generous super chat here from Randy Ray. Look at that, $200. Wow, thank you so much, Randy. That is incredibly generous of you. Appreciate that very much. Don't know whether or not you've seen what N Wokeness wrote on X. It was basically going through all the ways that the left canceled people over the years, down to celebrating Charlie Kirk's death, and this is the result of the monster the left created. Well, you heard what I just said.
Yeah, we have been on that case for as long as we've had a show. And in fact, because we were speaking out against that as strongly as we did, with the perspective that this was going to happen. This is exactly what we were warning about. This was why we covered the cancel culture. And at one point, that was mistaken by a lot of the more Benny in the closet oriented kind of viewers as alignment with MAGA. At one point, we were getting a lot of people, oh, you guys are going to go MAGA. You're almost there. You're going to go MAGA. And then they were very surprised to realize, no, we were talking about that specifically to avoid this moment. We knew this was going to happen. It was so obvious that they were opening the door to a reactionary fascist backlash in which they would use all these tactics that they had opened the door to against them. Yes, you are preaching to the choir.
Yes, you're absolutely right. And thank you for that generous donation. And I don't know if this is your first time here. I don't remember seeing your name in the chat at any point. But yes, you do get a cowbell for a donation over $50. And yeah, look, the first words out of my mouth when we covered this were that I condemn the shooting wholeheartedly, unreservedly, without hesitation or equivocation. And I think the people who are celebrating are making all kinds of huge mistakes. And I strongly cautioned against that from minute one. So yeah, no, I think you're right. And that's not just because you paid us $200. Yeah. We do give you some, you have room.
Although we will pretty much agree with anything for that.
Yeah. Yes, but in this case,
give us another 200. We'll agree that he should have been fired.
Yeah,
should have been fired a long time ago.
He should have been fired 4 years ago.
Yeah.
Yes. In this case, we happen to sincerely agree. Camilo Chavez says, "Love Woody Allen movies, but why all of a sudden are hardcore Zionists like Barry Weiss and Bill Maher interviewing him? Sus."
I'm thinking about doing it on Sunday. I'm pretty encyclopedic on his whole body of work through the 80s.
Well, hey, now that they're pro-Epstein, I guess the whole marrying your daughter thing doesn't bother them anymore, so they can uncancel it.
They're trying to normalize it.
Yeah, they're trying to normalize it. Well, he said, apparently, I started watching the Barry Weiss interview.
Screen Lolita at the White House this Friday.
Yeah. I started watching the Barry Weiss interview that he did. And, I didn't get far into it, but apparently he is voting for Andrew Cuomo for mayor of New York City. That's what he said.
I mean, that's no surprise.
No surprise.
I mean, it's sad. It's sad. But look, you go back and you look at a movie like Manhattan. Manhattan is deeply creepy now. It's a movie about a guy in his 40s who's dating a high school senior. And he cast Mariel Hemingway, who reads like 14.
Yo, man, I don't know what people were thinking, but I mean, I saw Manhattan when I was a teenager, and I thought it was fucking creepy then. That was in the early 2000s, yeah.
And then he, because his work was so autobiographical, there were hints, there were breadcrumbs in his movies from that period. Stardust Memories, which is kind of his almost tongue-in-cheek Bergman Fellini tribute. He's having an argument with his girlfriend, played by, I think, Bissett. It was either Bissett or Charlotte Rampling. And she says, I saw you flirting with my niece at dinner. I used to play the same games with my father. And it's supposed to be a 13-year-old niece. He said,
right.
You're crazy. That didn't happen. Why is that in the screenplay?
Right.
Why is that in there? So there's a lot of shit in there indicating that.
There's a lot of shit in there. Oh, yeah. Well, there's a lot. I mean, look, maybe we should get, because I know his movies too.
He married his adopted daughter.
Well, look, I know his movies too, and I'm very, very familiar with his work, even through like the late stages of his career, because he hit his stride again later in his career.
Yeah.
Like he went through a drought in like the 90s, but then starting with there was
the Match Point.
Match Point was really good, and then he had like a string of really good ones after that. Like Midnight in Paris is wonderful. So like he did hit his stride again later. But like if you look at a movie like Crimes and Misdemeanors, it's all about how you can commit crimes and trust that there is no order to the universe that's going to judge you. So if you let go of your own guilt, then you're fine. It doesn't matter. Right. So, I mean, a lot of his stuff can be read as him confessing his guilt in a very kind of sociopathic, if God won't judge me, who will kind of way. Yeah. All right. We will move right on along here. Ex-Barbarian says, while I personally lay low, I have to say I'm feeling a bit tanky inclined. This shit is off the chains and suggests to only get much worse. Yeah, the only problem with that is that there's no army. You know, you got to look around. You dirtbags should keep a running list of people you wouldn't piss on if they were on fire. Update it weekly and scroll it like the Patreon list. This is a terrific idea. You're welcome. Yeah, that's a great idea. That's a lovely idea. Nice to see some positivity from the chat. When the Epstein Files movie is made, will Ron Jeremy be too old to play Michael Tracy? Thank you, Abiding. Appreciate that. Before all this vitriol on X, you could just take somebody to a warehouse in Patterson to hash out your differences. That's right. Thank you. Appreciate that. Hillary Hinton says, I don't know what's worse, getting blown up in nuclear war or having a 7-Eleven on every corner. Christian Slater's character in Gleaming the Cube. Thank you for that, Eric Rousseau. I hear groypers are into femboys. I guess that explains the Fuentes Destiny affair. Good one. All right, we will move right on along. Okay, so Tucker Carlson did a big stream the other night. His sort of memorial, podcast to Charlie Kirk, where he had, a rotating panel of guests. And before we get into what he said there, I do have to remind you all of Tucker's, at the time, very controversial appearance at the Turning Point USA conference over the summer, where he goes on this long tear about Epstein's connections to Israel.
And I think the real answer is Jeffrey Epstein was working on behalf of intel services, probably not American. And we have every right to ask, on whose behalf was he working? How does a guy go from being a math teacher at the Dalton School in the late 70s with no college degree to having multiple airplanes, a private island, and the largest residential house in Manhattan? Where did all the money come from? And no one has ever gotten to the bottom of that because no one has ever tried. And moreover, it's extremely obvious to anyone who watches that this guy had direct connections to a foreign government. Now, no one's allowed to say that that foreign government is Israel because we have been somehow cowed.
Listen to the applause.
Into thinking that that's naughty. There is nothing wrong with saying that. There is nothing hateful about saying that. There's nothing anti-Semitic about saying that. There's nothing even anti-Israel about saying that. I've spent my entire life pretty much in Washington, where I knew and loved a number of people, including one very close person who worked at CIA. That has never prohibited me from saying, I think the CIA has done some horrible things, murdered a bunch of people, participated in the murder of a sitting U.S. president. It's got a whole trail of crimes. That doesn't make me a disloyal American. It doesn't make me anti-American in any sense. I was born here. My family's been here for hundreds of years. I love this country. That's why I live here. So criticizing the behavior of a government agency does not make you a hater. It makes you a free person. It makes you a citizen. You're allowed to do that because you're not a slave. You're a citizen.
As you can see, that was very well received. Now, at the time, we covered this, and we were thinking, man, did he just go rogue? I mean, we may have even categorized that in our clip, whatever we did. You know, Tucker goes rogue. Tucker goes off the reservation. You know, Tucker lets loose. Well, this is really interesting. So one of the things he said in his sort of memorial podcast was that he actually told Charlie Kirk before making that speech that he wouldn't do that. He wouldn't talk about Epstein because he knew it would be a big problem for Charlie's donors. And apparently, according to what he's saying now, Charlie said, no, do it. I want you to do it. So let's hear from Tucker about recalling that event.
You know, probably not going to talk about that. I'm not going to torture you. I know your donors hate this when I say that. And also Epstein was in the news, and it was clear to me that, you know, Epstein's probably not like a Mossad agent or something, but Epstein clearly had contact with Israeli intelligence and American intelligence and French intelligence, but the only one you're not allowed to talk about is Israeli intelligence. But it seemed true to me, and I had done some work on that. I knew a bunch of people pretty close to that story, so I thought that. And I said that to Charlie, and I said, but I'm not going to say that because I don't want to make your donors mad. I know it's just going to be like an endless flurry of text telling you to stop or you're going to lose a bunch of funding. And he looked at me, I'll never forget it, and said, go all the way. Do it. Go all the way. I said, man, a lot of things I can talk about. I don't need to talk about that. And he said, do it. So I did it. By the way, I think that conversation, he had a mic on, and so did I, probably exists somewhere on somebody's server, but that's, I think, a faithful rendition of what he said. And by the way, I'm not trying to blame him for my remarks. You can agree or disagree with those remarks, but I'm saying this only because I was shocked and sickened by the reaction of the ghoulish and really repulsive reaction of the Prime Minister of Israel, Benjamin Netanyahu, to Charlie's death. Basically made it all about him and all about his country, immediately trying to take the energy, the sadness, the grief that people felt over Charlie's murder and redirect it towards support for whatever project he's involved in. And by the way, Benjamin Netanyahu is not the same as the nation of Israel at all. Bibi is despised by many.
All right. That's enough. I understand you got to do that damage control. It's the dangerous times. Okay.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean,
can't wear a bulletproof vest on your neck.
Yeah, that is pretty revealing stuff. That is pretty revealing stuff. The fact that, yeah, I mean, because I think Charlie probably knew that the audience would react positively to that. Like, don't forget, like he's trying to organize people, right? You can't organize people by pulling a Taibbi and acting like this stuff just doesn't exist and talking around these things. And so he said, go ahead, do it. Charlie Kirk and Tucker Carlson both had tremendous influence, within the space. And so I think he trusted that. And the fact that Tucker says that and then links that to Netanyahu, pretty crazy stuff. Pretty crazy stuff. And then there is one more thing that just caught my eye before we went on the air. So, after Charlie's death, you have these sort of like rotating hosts, in the weeks following his death. You're going to like sit in the host chair and host the show as a way of paying tribute. So J.D. Vance was the first one. And then you had the Daily Wire guys, which, I think you have something about later on. And now apparently, this was the first I heard of this right before we went on the air, Laura Loomer says Tucker Carlson is going around telling people that he is hosting the Charlie Kirk show tomorrow. What a disgrace if that's true. Even Charlie's own pastor had to come out and refute the claims made by Tucker and Candace. Why is someone with so much money like Tucker trying to profit off of Charlie's dead body? That's why Tucker's doing this. He needs the money. Yeah, it's a big grift. Yeah, no, I'm sure he's cashing in on this. Right. Trying to profit off of Charlie's dead body.
I would be very surprised if he's getting paid for the appearance.
Well, I'm just talking about like even his even his podcast.
Yeah, but the idea
content,
that he's profiting.
Yeah, the idea that like
In
this
what
is for clicks, like he needs the ad revenue.
Yeah.
Like it,
There-
like
there
he,
are and look, we can tell you from our own much smaller experience. Once there's brand awareness of your channel in the space, appearances don't really do anything for your subscriptions because anyone from that channel who would have subscribed to you is already subscribed. Everyone's heard of Tucker Carlson. There's nobody at Turning Points who's this Tucker guy?
Right.
I like
Oh,
the cut of his
great
jib. I think I'll
exposure.
subscribe.
Exactly. Yeah. No, it's not for the money. It's not for the clout. Hasn't Tucker sucked enough energy out of the country while Charlie's family is grieving? I hate Tucker Carlson. Okay, these people all make the same mistake. We're going to see the video of Netanyahu protesting too much, as Shakespeare would say. Tucker was clearly a good friend of Charlie Kirk's. You have a week where people who were close to Charlie are filling in on his podcast as a way of paying tribute to him. And so Tucker is one of the guests. What the fuck do you care? And assuming you care, why are you screaming about, like, it only makes you look worse when you have a public meltdown about the fact that Tucker Carlson is filling in for him. It only makes you look worse. It only makes you look like you're trying to hide something. And by trying to hide something, I do not mean you're trying to hide the fact that Israel whacked him. What I mean is you're trying to hide the fact that Israel pushed this guy around and that Israel and the Israeli allies felt the need to manufacture support for their project by browbeating Charlie Kirk. Because the other stuff is all speculation, but this is not speculation at this point. At this point, it's pretty much fact that you got guys like Bill Ackman and that woman who, Douglas Murray's friend, whoever the fuck she is, I forget her name, Natasha something. Yeah. It is a fact at this point. It's been corroborated enough times where I feel very comfortable stating as fact. They sat him down and read him the Riot Act, which exposes the fact that support for Israel in this country is mostly a top-down manufactured phenomenon. And so that's what's important about all of this.
Right.
Whether, theories about his murder notwithstanding, it's still important to get to the bottom of exactly how much and to what extent they tried to push him around. And that's why Tucker's talking about this. That's why Tucker came out and said, you know what? I wasn't going to go there with Epstein. I told Charlie I wasn't going to go there with Epstein. And he said, no, I want you to do it. And go all the way. Say whatever you want. So when we watch a video like this is not, Tucker going rogue. Apparently, he offered not to do this. And Charlie said, no, go ahead. Do it anyway.
Yeah. And if you look at Tucker's description of that exchange, yeah, that's a young guy who got co-opted, really, by the Zionists, by the Israelis. They saw potential there, and they started giving him money pretty early on, from what I understand, when he's 18. They got their hooks in him. And at that age, man, there's still a lot of room for growth. There's still a lot of room to evolve, especially on an issue like that, and especially in light of current events. For him to tell Tucker to go do that, that's him trying to assert his independence. That's a guy who is starting to feel like he made a deal with the devil, who's trying to get out of the contract.
Right, and he knows that there's popular... This is the other thing. He knows there was a lot of popular support for what Tucker was saying. Right. And I think he probably sympathized. I mean, I'm sure he sympathized.
If he didn't, he wouldn't have encouraged
If he didn't,
it.
he wouldn't have said that.
No.
If he didn't, he would have said that. I think the youth vote swung to Trump by, I think, 9 points in the 2024 race. Now, that was due to a lot of things. I don't think you can give Charlie Kirk sole credit for that, but you can give him a decent amount of credit for that. I mean, there's no doubt that he pulled a lot of weight with young conservative men. And so he figures, you know what? Look, to the extent I have some power and influence and say at the administration, I'm going to try my best to at least move the needle on these couple of issues. And the fact that all this happens a couple months before he's killed does not look good. Does not look good. But what we know for sure, that aside, is that these people were furious at him for it. And they're not even being honest about having been pissed off at him for it. Like they're not even big enough to come and say, like Bill Ackman's not even the big enough man to come and say, yeah, we got into an argument. Yeah, we got into an argument and we got over it. Right?
Well, that's where it's very suspicious. And, I was joking about it on Jimmy's yesterday, but seriously, all of the statements of people who were there who were trying to save their asses now, like Du Rousseau, they all sound like they were written by Ackman.
Right.
It's all that very boring, ponderous. And then we had cereal. I
Right.
believe it was rice checks.
Right.
And there was no oat milk in the refrigerator, which I prefer. But I settled for coconut water, which sometimes I like with my cereal. They're all written like that.
Yeah.
They all have that same, they got together, they coordinated their stories, and there might be a fixer who wrote all these. They are all very similar structurally and tonally. Too much for it to be random. Everyone has their own distinct writing style.
Right.
And these all sound the same.
Yep. Absolutely. Good news, Russ. Elon says he'll give you Starlink for the Asia tour if you just end the report with a Heil from the Far East Front. Thank you, Professor Brown. No,
I'm gonna try to go with the eSIM.
There you go. All right. YouTuber's Canadian Prepper said when Elon bought Twitter, said it was about free speech. Could really be like the 100 followers campaign to suss out dissent. Gaza is the test by phone to eliminate dissent. Thank you.
Hey, I want to address something because I think you've been kind of going on this thing a lot, which I mostly agree with. Somebody was saying in the chat, DD's going in a centrist route. So understand, Keaton doesn't want to mention anybody. I don't, we're not gonna, but I'll say this in a roundabout way. When he's talking about people who actually get things done, remember where we just were. We were just in St. Louis with a group that's been around since the Black Power era that has built basketball courts, that's built a farmers market, that's built their own meeting centers, that did something that no other group that came out of that movement did. Not one survived. They're the only ones who survived. You don't see them getting caught up in these not just this, any of these kind of culture war things. They don't do hot takes. They do real shit in the real community with real people.
Sure.
So that's that's where we are politically. We just went out to do a documentary with the African Socialist People's Party. But we look to them as an example of how you actually do things in the actual real world. Man, you think Yeshitela gives a shit about any of that? He's the man.
It's not worth it. It's not
It's
worth it.
It's
All
not
you
worth
do
it.
is bring
for him.
heat on you. Yeah.
It's not where his attempt. But he wouldn't even care about that.
Right.
It's so obviously a culture war provocation. It's just not going to be relevant to him. These kinds of culture war provocations are relevant in the space as they're meant to be because they're trying to gin up a civil war between us.
Exactly. So talking about unity in this moment is not embracing centrism. It's about you have the government and very, very wealthy elites trying to tear the country apart so that they, with their money, can come in and rebuild it. It's strategy of tension.
That's it.
It's shock doctrine shit. Disaster capitalism on a social scale.
They
so
want
don't fall for it. Don't fall for it. That's all.
It's the old Richard Pryor joke, man. They want you to go get the stick to beat your own ass. That's what they're doing. When Elon Musk gets up there in a country he's not from, another country he's not from, to try to manipulate their politics and tells them violence is coming for you, he's trying to incite violence in England. Why is he doing that? How does he benefit from that chaos? Because if the established institutions are destroyed, that opens up tremendous space for him and his criminal class to build out their own shit in its place without any institutions that are powerful enough to check them.
Right. Basil Beshkov says, what, a snake oil salesman again, president of these United States. Thank you. Chuck Schumer, we thank all the first responders who were on the scene yesterday. Continue to work with the murderer. 18 seconds in. Chuck Schumer fiercely condemns political violence. Michael Castillo, it's not about Republican versus Democrats, about insanity versus humanity. Love you two on Katie's yesterday. I want that Mike Savage, Sean Hannity sound drop. That pimp scumbag.
We gotta put that on the soundboard. We've been a little busy. I'll throw it on over the weekend.
Yeah, exactly. All right. Let's move right on along. Go ahead. Netanyahu.
It's me.
Yep.
All right. So Benji went out to issue a disclaimer because there were all these crazy rumors that Israel might have had something to do with Charlie Kirk's tragic assassination.
Joseph Goebbels, the Nazi propaganda minister,
of course,
said that the bigger the lie, the faster it will spread. Well, somebody has fabricated a monstrous big lie that Israel had something to do with Charlie Kirk's horrific murder. This is insane. It is false. It is outrageous. Charlie Kirk was a giant, a once-in-a-century talent who defended freedom, defended America, defended our common Judeo-Christian civilization. Charlie loved Israel. He loved the Jewish people. He told me so in a letter that he sent me just a few months ago. One of my greatest joys as a Christian, he said, is advocating for Israel and forming alliances with Jews to protect Judeo-Christian civilization. He encouraged me to make the case directly to the American people about how vital Israel is to U.S. national security. He told me, the Holy Land is so important to my life, it pains me to see support for Israel slip away. Now, if Charlie disagreed with a policy of mine or a decision here and there, not only did I not mind, I welcomed it. This is the essence of Charlie. This is the essence of a free country. It's exactly what Charlie stood for. And I knew that his suggestions always came from the heart.
Your country
and his love for Israel.
I gotta ask, have you ever once seen any Zionist welcome disagreement, much less Netanyahu? Have you ever seen a Zionist, a true dedicated, I don't mean just generally vaguely supports the state of Israel. I mean like a Zionist say, yes, well, we can agree to disagree. Have you ever seen that? Or did they go right to where he started? Goebbels!
Well, look, we have a segment that we will hopefully get to today. My kid has a long doctor's appointment, so we can't do the full 3 hours today, but we'll get to it Sunday if we don't. Their minister of sports and culture just defunded the Israeli Oscars because the winning film was sympathetic to the Palestinian perspective. Right. That's what a democracy they are.
Yes.
That if an Israeli makes a movie sympathetic to the Palestinians and that movie does well, the institutions that reward it get defunded. That's how much they welcome disagreement.
Yes, the idea that I have never, especially post-October 7th, I cannot think of a single case where a Zionist didn't go to the maximalist, you're an anti-Semite Nazi argument at any disagreement.
Right, yeah.
And from his love for the Jewish people. A few weeks before his death, I spoke to Charlie. I invited him to visit Israel again. Sadly.
Yeah, we heard about that.
Now some are peddling these disgusting rumors, perhaps out of obsession, perhaps with Qatari funding. What I do know
Tucker
is
again
this.
on the brain.
Charlie Kirk was a great man, and a great man deserves honor, not lies. Rest in peace, Charlie Kirk. May your memory be a blessing.
Okay, so Jake Shields. I also didn't kill Charlie Kirk, but I don't feel the need to make a video telling you this.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, methinks the lady doth protest too much. Jackson Hinkle. Charlie rejected your request that he come visit Israel. He also rejected your funding offer, which would have silenced him.
Yep.
Why are you lying again about this?
Yep.
And Tucker Carlson did an interview with Megyn Kelly where they both once again reinforced the story that all of Charlie's friends seem to be telling. You know who's not telling that story? People in Turning Points USA who need this Zionist money to keep coming in to keep their jobs. A lot of them are not backing up this story and are going along with Bill Ackman. But people who were close with Charlie, who have no financial incentive to lie about it, they've all been telling pretty much the same story, including Marjorie Taylor Greene, Matt Gaetz. But here's Tucker
Roger
and Megyn
Stone.
Kelly.
Talk
Roger
about a guy
Stone.
who has no reason to make that up. Yeah.
Right.
And for Benjamin Netanyahu, who really tormented Charlie, we talked about it many times. He tormented Charlie, and his advocates tormented Charlie. For him to run around saying that Charlie died for Israel is just too much. It's just disgusting. And as his friend,
No,
I feel more
that
bound to say
statement
that.
was out
Disgusting.
of line. No, I agree with you. And I never talk about Bibi Netanyahu. I don't really,
No.
I don't think much about him. I just don't. I had the opportunity to interview him a couple months ago and I declined. I'm just not, no, I just don't want to. I didn't want to platform him. I didn't actually, frankly, want to do all the work that I would have to do to sufficiently interview him in a way that would be, tough, as I do when I have any foreign leader in my crosshairs. I just wasn't interested. Whatever. For him to do what he did was wrong. It was a moral wrong to sit out there and read part of Charlie's letter and try to have the final say on Charlie's pronunciations about Israel. And he knew that they weren't the full story. And he's a foreign leader. He's not an American leader. So how dare he? At best, you come out there, you say, I'm so sorry for this loss. My prayers to his family. That's it. He was out of line, Tucker. And I, as not even a Netanyahu critic, saw it very clearly and talked about it today on the show, too.
Can I ask you about next?
Yeah.
Yeah. This is
I'm sorry.
Yeah. This is all backfiring, really, as all of their propaganda is these days. What do you want to say?
No, I was just going to say, what reason does Megyn Kelly have to lie about that? One of them is clearly lying, right?
Right.
So you have to ask, okay, who is more incentivized? First of all, who's got a bigger reputation as a liar? The Israelis are number one in that department, bar none. And then you ask, okay, what is in it for Megyn Kelly to make that up?
Right.
Nothing.
Right. Or Nothing. Tucker Carlson.
Or Tucker. Yeah.
Or Matt Gaetz, or, as you say, Roger
Stone, Marjorie Taylor Greene. Nothing is in it for any of these people to make this shit up.
Right. So here's Candace Owens, and this kind of goes into the second part of this, both pointing out the pressure that Charlie was under, and also Key Bono, who benefits.
I'm being contacted by a lot of people that are telling me that just within 48 hours before Charlie passed away, his top Jewish donors were pulling funding from him, demanding that Charlie take their name off of the building that they had donated to Turning Point. I guess I can figure out who that is, how many people could have donated a building. And then once Charlie was killed, they said, never mind, put it back on the building. Okay. Charlie himself had alluded to a tremendous loss of money coming in, and we'll speak about that more. More people are going to come out with information. This is all inevitable. Okay. And I'll also point you in this direction. You guys remember Bibi recently was on a PR blitz, despite the fact that he was, fighting this 96,000 front war because Israel didn't do nothing. Okay. He was doing a ton of podcasts in America. He went on to Patrick Bet-David's podcast. He went on to Brandon Tatum's podcast. He went on to the Nelk Boys podcast. Anybody find it weird he didn't do Charlie Kirk's show?
That's a good point.
Comey very quickly told us that Charlie was penning love letters to him in May.
Yeah, that's true.
I just love you so much.
Yeah.
It's amazing. They were so close. The boys just hits him up like, hey, I know we're fighting this 97,000 front war because we're always the victims, but do you want to just come and maybe stay at my place for the weekend here in Israel? Like, that's the vibe that Bibi was rushing to present to the media. So why didn't you do Charlie Kirk's show? I'll leave that as a question for you guys. Common sense, okay? I don't like small lies. And remember, Bibi started this. I am responding to his shameless misrepresentation of what Charlie was going through and what Charlie was saying. Because, and I want to be clear, to me right now, it feels, and I'm using a corporate term here, a bit like a hostile takeover, okay? Charlie builds the company organically on the basis of Charlie and Charlie's honest ideas. Suddenly, that company's got a lot of money, and Charlie's honest ideas are starting to change or maybe add more color. And now he's getting financial threats. He's being called names. He increasingly, he's being told who and what he's allowed to speak to, and he's taking a stance. He's taking a stand privately up to these people, and then it doesn't matter anymore because Charlie's dead, and those very same people who were pressing him are now doing, like, very quickly trying to set in stone that, Charlie, essentially the energy is Charlie died for Israel. He's just one of us. Nobody ask any more questions. That is literally untrue, and we're not going to allow it. Okay? It's just not true.
Okay, so hostile takeover. She talks about people who are trying to exploit his death to pretend that his position on Israel was very different from what it was, according to his friends. So, Key Bono, who benefits? The Shadow of Ezra. Ben Shapiro has stepped in as a co-host of the Charlie Kirk Show alongside Matt Walsh and Michael Knowles, all of whom are supporters of Israel. His move comes just days after Charlie Kirk's assassination, with Shapiro vowing to pick up the blood-stained microphone where Charlie left it. So let's take a look at that.
And of course, they need no introduction. That would be, in no particular order from my right to left, Matt Walsh, Michael Knowles, and Ben Shapiro. And I want to explain how this even happened. Obviously, we had the Vice President of the United States honor Charlie by guest hosting the show from the White House yesterday. I was just in D.C. yesterday for that, and it was an amazing experience. I've gotten so much great feedback, and of course, we are so honored that JD wanted to take time, from running the country and leading the world to help honor his friend.
Pulling comedians off TV stations. Lauren Witzke. It's a setup. Ben Shapiro's Daily Wire donates $1 million to Turning Point USA to help bring people back to Christ and bring people back to church and back to biblical values as Charlie wanted. This sounds good, but the truth is, this is money spent to enforce Christian Zionism and loyalty to Israeli interests. Remember, there's reporting that Charlie was in the process of becoming a Catholic. I don't care what you say. Anyone who gives an organization $1 million becomes an influential part of the organization. Also, it's very strange that the Daily Wire was able to cough up $1 million to give to Turning Points USA when they themselves were shutting down departments and laying off people just a couple months ago due to financial challenges. Where did this $1 million really come from? We covered that story. Daily Wire was going bankrupt. People were getting fired. They were getting rid of staff. That's a very good question. Where did they get $1 million extra for a company going bankrupt to donate to Turning Point USA? And you would think, with all the controversy around Charlie's views right now around Israel, you would think Turning Points USA would not put the Daily Wire crew up as guest hosts on that program, unless you got $1 million from these guys. Then you're going to put them on, right? Now, Matt Walsh, there's a good example of why I would argue you can't really trust most commentators. Most commentators are not honest. They're not honest. They're not telling you the truth. Here's Matt Walsh blithely reinforcing the narrative that clearly the administration wants and clearly that the Israelis want. Radical leftists are the greatest domestic terror threat we face. They killed Charlie. They will kill many more if they can. They want us dead, and they're very clear about it. The media is trying to run cover for them and let them off the hook. The right must not help them in that effort. That would be a huge mistake. One of the worst mistakes I've ever seen conservatives make. So here you see a guy like Matt Walsh kind of feigns independence, but when the rubber hits the road, when the shit hits the fan, when they need him to reinforce a narrative, he uses the credibility that he's built up in the space to try to direct the energy in the direction they want it to go in. He, as far as I know, he hasn't even addressed the controversy around Netanyahu, around Israel. All he's been hammering is trans, leftist, go to war, executions. That's it. That's all he's been doing.
Literally, he advocated for executions. Yeah.
No, literally. I'm not being hyperbolic. He literally did. Nick Sorter, who I trust because of Sodagate as an honest actor in the space. I hope I'm right about that. Says here, not in response to Walsh, to be clear, in a different context. Unfortunately, the majority of big influencers are patriots, P-A-Y, not patriots. Indeed. And this was actually a meme that someone responded to Matt Walsh with. Your favorite influencers, Scooby-Doo. Let's see who this really is. Pulls the hood off, billionaire globalists. Yeah, man, it's they control the entire political spectrum that you might think is there in the commentariat. You think there's a right-left thing going on. Nah, man. There's one party, the Green Party, the Green Money Party, and it owns most of the people in the space. And their job, it's a big panopticon, is to keep you fighting over nonsense and to keep you distracted. Why would the Daily Wire crew in the middle of all this, when you've got Candace, you got Marjorie Taylor Greene, you got Tucker, all talking about this, why of all people would they put the Daily Wire people on there? And probably the person who has the most credibility out of that crew that people don't so strongly identify with Israel is Matt Walsh. And that's why, if you notice, he's the one they're using to really try to direct the energy against leftists and trans people, right? That's his job there. Why do you think people always have, oh, Matt Walsh is going to get fired? No, man, that's why they don't fire him, because at this moment, they need him to push that agenda.
Yes. Yes. And, there's just obviously so much of this that just looks really bad. And I'll incorporate this into the segment here because it's a super chat. Charlie was killed by the boyfriend of a furry trans wokie. Don't lie. Look, I said this on Jimmy's show last night. Maybe you're new here. And if you're new here, you don't know that, our show has not towed the party line on that issue, especially Russ. So, but what I would say is, like, look, we
interviewed Buck Angel. It was one of our earliest interviews.
It's Buck Angel, who was actually a friend of Charlie Kirk. They debated once, but they considered each other friends after that. Look, I said on Jimmy's show last night, I'd condemn the murder no matter who did it for what reason. Doesn't matter to me. I condemn it just as loud either way. Also, as I mentioned on Jimmy's show last night, my politics are not Trump's politics. I never voted for him. I also never really voted against him. I didn't vote for any of his three Democratic opponents. So, like, look, if whatever the truth is, I condemn the murder either way. Like, I don't have an axe to grind here in terms of, like, no, it can't be this.
Oh,
so
yeah,
we have to
yeah,
make
yeah.
it that.
Yeah, no.
But I mean, I don't know how much you followed about this, but the text exchange that they concocted, that they say they reproduced, nobody's buying that. Steve Bannon isn't buying that. Okay? Matt Walsh isn't buying that. Matt Walsh thinks it was scripted, but for a different reason. He thinks it was scripted to protect the trans lover.
Right. Yeah.
But both of them think it was, like, hardly anybody believes in the authenticity of that. You have Kash Patel saying, well, there was a note that existed. We never found it, but we were able to determine through aggressive interview posture what it said. Like, nothing they're saying makes sense. So, like, look, whatever the truth is, like I said, I condemn the murder, whatever it is, for whatever reason.
It's not about that. But
it's not about that.
That's a whole other subject. But if you believe the narrative that they're putting out, I got a bridge to sell you. Whatever it is,
exactly.
We don't know what happened, but we know what they're saying happened is not what happened.
Yeah, exactly. All right. Basil Beshkov says Gonzalo Lira. Yes, thank you, Basil Beshkov. Hit him far says, do you believe Kirk conspiracy theory murder? Why? I think we just answered that. I think we're of the Oliver Stone JFK theory that we can't tell you what happened, but we can tell you that what they're telling us happened is not, at the very least, not the full story. The only ones who legit benefited from this was AIPAC Bibi interest. Thank you, Alexander. Appreciate that. Okay. Camilo Chavez, Woody Allen didn't marry his adopted daughter. It was Pharaoh's stepchild. Well, that became his de facto daughter.
He married Pharaoh.
The mother, right. Personal interest beyond... Pharaoh's personal interest, personal dramas are insane. They are.
No. If you take a look at Ronan Farrow and you take a look at Frank Sinatra, You're gonna tell me that's Woody Allen's kid? Get the fuck out of here. Yeah, no, she's a piece of shit too.
Yeah,
but that doesn't mean Woody isn't.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
Come on, like, what are you defending here, dude?
Yeah.
Like, what are you talking about? He racist. You want something creepy? You want some creepy shit? Go watch Hannah and Her Sisters. There's a Thanksgiving scene where one of the children at the table is Woody Allen's future wife.
Right. Yeah. It's strange, man. It's strange. Alexander G, thank you for that donation. Last try on the censorship, Charlie was killed for changing people's minds on Israel. That is possible. So it sounds like were you being sarcastic when you said
I think maybe he was being sarcastic.
I think
he was sarcastic. That was how I read it.
That was how okay. All right, I didn't read it that way at the time because I think you're new to the chat. So if China Shill had sent us that, then I would have taken it as sarcasm. But perhaps it was because your subsequent messages seem to suggest that.
Yeah, I think he was kidding around. Yeah.
All right. I still got to use it for the clip though, because I incorporated it into my take. So keep that in mind for next time. That's the risk you run when you're being sarcastic. The Benny in the closet thing cracks me up. Thanks, Jennifer Ogle. Quoting Goebbels as a Jew is creepy weird, says Hobo Jesus. Yes, Eric Torres. Look what they did to No Other Land. Well, yeah. Well, that was a film from the West Bank. This film I'm talking about here is an Israeli-made film that won an Israeli Academy Award. It was not from the West Bank, not from Gaza. It was from Israel. Yeah. Crazy story. If it ever comes to show that such a country was involved in the whacking of Kirk, you'll see how all of a sudden everyone will forget it even happened. Thank you. Well, I don't think so. No, I think this is a cataclysmic event, and I think whatever the truth of this, if and when it ever comes out, will be cataclysmic as well. Eric Rousseau says Jimmy Kimmel will be replaced by Ben Shapiro doing his best Johnny Carson impression. Yeah, there you go. Watch Kimmel's Karl Malone impression and then the joke that got him fired. Yeah, no, I mean, he's done a lot of it. Look, the shit about how if you didn't take a vaccine, you should be left to die. I mean, that was pretty extreme. This didn't even approach that. Vianticus Prime says it's good to see Republicans no longer pretending and going back to their roots. Now, if we could just get the Democrats to stop pretending they're not also Republicans. There you go. Xander Varkov, Caucus from the Closet with Benny Johnson coming this fall on CBS. Thank you for that. China Shill says, how about Benny in the bathhouse or bathhouse Ben? Good one. All right. What else we got over here? All right. We're going to take a quick ad break here to tell you about one of our dissident sponsors, which is called The Grifter's Bible. And The Grifter's Bible is a mind-bending novel by El Shabooms. It's now a free weekly series on YouTube with a soundtrack by Monumental Sonic Architecture. Follow the First Electric Church of Jesus Christ as they combine the bleeding edge of black patented neuroscience with state-of-the-art Michigas to beat the Great Recession. They sell visions of God to the huddled masses of Deep Ellum, Texas, and the money pours in until the local competition, the police, and the U.S. Navy decide to put a stop to it. There's ass-whoopings, car chases, and a showdown at high noon on Good Friday in Dodge City. It's sci-fi noir. It's a picaresque thriller. It's a Western from 10 minutes in the future. It's The Grifter's Bible. It's a film series by El Shabooms with a soundtrack by Monumental Sonic Architecture. A new episode is posted every Monday at youtube.com/El Shaboom. So go ahead and check that out. The link is right there. Smash that subscribe button and support our dissident artists and sponsors. Thank you all very much for that. All right, folks, we got some more bad news. This is a quick segment, more of a news update here. But on the Mahmoud Khalil case, U.S. immigration judge orders Khalil deportation. His lawyers say separate ruling protects him for now. A U.S. immigration judge ordered pro-Palestinian activist Mahmoud Khalil to be deported to Algeria or Syria over claims that he omitted information from his green card application, court documents showed on Wednesday. Khalil's lawyers said they intend to appeal the deportation order while saying a federal district court's separate orders remain in effect that prohibit the government from immediately deporting or detaining him as his federal court case proceeds. Immigration Judge Jamie Coleman said Khalil willfully misrepresented material facts for the sole purpose of circumventing the immigration process and reducing the likelihood his application would be denied. Khalil's lawyers submitted a letter to a federal court in New Jersey overseeing his civil rights case and said he will challenge Coleman's decision. It was a Louisiana judge that ordered this. It's no surprise that the Trump administration continues to retaliate against me for my exercise of free speech, Khalil said. When their first effort to deport me was set to fail, they resorted to fabricating baseless and ridiculous allegations in a bid to silence me for speaking out and standing firmly with Palestine, demanding an end to the ongoing genocide. Now, DropSite reported some additional details about what these judges claim. So I'll skip to the second paragraph here. Judge Jamie Coleman's ruled Khalil willfully misrepresented facts on his I-485 green card form, failing to disclose roles with UNRWA, Columbia University Apartheid Divest, and the Syria office of the British Embassy in Beirut, and denied his waiver request, doubling down on a June order rejecting his asylum claim. Khalil, calling it a kangaroo immigration court, said the Trump administration is retaliating against him for speaking out on Gaza. He has 30 days to appeal. So Khalil came to the United States in 2022 on a visa. He then was given his green card in 2024. Now, it's not clear to me when he applied for the green card, because the green card could take from, I think 6 months to 2 years to get processed. It takes a long time to actually get approved for a green card. So it could very well be the case that he applied for his green card before October 7th, which, Israel didn't make these accusations about UNRWA until January of 2024. And even when they did, they made accusations about 12 UNRWA employees in an organization of 30,000. So how would that really be relevant? You're going to tell me that was relevant to note there? Their accusation was 12, which they then revised down to 5 out of 30,000 people. And for all we know, again, I don't know this to be true. I don't know when he applied for the green card, but it's likely he applied for the green card before that was even an issue in the first place. So, I mean, it's as obvious as the day is long that this is political retaliation. So Caitlin Johnson, just to put a button on it, says it's amazing how aggressively Trump is shredding free speech in the wake of the Charlie Kirk killing. Jimmy Kimmel was fired after Trump's FCC threatened ABC when the late-night comic suggested that Kurt's killer was a Trumper. Palestinian activist Mahmoud Khalil has been ordered deported to Syria or Algeria after the Trump administration targeted him for political speech critical of Israel. And we're probably going to cover this on our next show. Trump has brokered a deal allowing TikTok to be purchased by a consortium that includes his billionaire buddies, who? Larry Ellison and Mark Andreessen. U.S. officials have acknowledged that Washington's push to grab control of TikTok was because of the opposition to the Gaza Holocaust that was circulating on the platform. Caitlin Johnson, spot on as always, goes on to list many, many more examples. I encourage you to check her X account and give her a follow. But yeah, when this Khalil case broke, I said this is an automatic fail. This alone makes Donald Trump worse on free speech than even his predecessor, who was very bad on free speech. And you've just seen it go into hyperdrive this past week. I don't even know how J.D. Vance can say these things without knowing he's going to get called for that speech he gave in Europe at the beginning of the term. Now, as for Mahmoud Khalil, I've made this point in the past. Syria is obviously unstable, doesn't even begin to describe Syria. Algeria, relatively unstable as well politically. Obviously, the guy's got a family he's got to worry about wherever he goes. But I've always said this about Khalil. Look, I think he has a right to be here, obviously. He's a green card. He's a permanent legal resident, which means he has First Amendment rights. And I don't believe this whole bullshit line that, he lied on his, whatever. Hey, when he came here, there was no genocide to protest, not in fast motion, at least. So I've always said this about Khalil, hey, how he chooses to handle this is up to him. And I think he's got the right to stay here. And I think we should support him and support the family, but I can't imagine being in his shoes and not shopping around for a country that'll take him in. just move somewhere else. I mean, you can
Yeah.
immigrate to somewhere else. Why stay here where you're not like you can go like there's pro-Palestine protests everywhere, right? I mean, go to a place that's going to treat you better. That would be my advice to him. I don't even know why he wants to stay at this point.
Yeah, I really don't understand that. I used to tell my wife at the time, who was from Australia, because sometimes news events would come up. This was the one that really got her. Judge Roy Moore, that was his name, right?
The guy
who went to the polls on the horse with the gun.
yeah. Well,
And,
the guy who was a fan of the playground. Yeah.
He was a fan of the playground, yeah. And she thought the story was a joke. She asked me about it. She said, "Hang on, is this real? Is this real?" I said, "Yeah, no, that's real. He went on a horse with a gun." She said, "What's wrong?" She said, "What's wrong with your country?" I said, "Man, I was born here. What's your excuse?
Yeah, right.
You made
exactly.
a point of coming. You went out of your way to come here. What the fuck are you doing here?"
Right.
Yeah, man, I don't understand, especially if you've been through what Khalil has been through. Why would you fight so hard to stay in the United States?
Yeah.
Like there are English speaking countries that are not this savage, that are not this advanced in their collapse towards fascism. Right.
Yeah.
I mean, in most countries, in my experience, that you're going to go to in the West, unless you're going to go into the rural countryside, they speak English everywhere. Like you can go to lots of places if you want to stay in the Western world. There are lots of places that are a lot less dangerous for someone like that than the United States. Now you want to say, well, that's the point. This is where I'm needed to do this. That's brave. It's brave to stick your neck out like that. I saw him a few weeks ago.
Yeah.
Protesting outside the New York Public Library, which takes big balls after what they've done to him. But it looks like he's standing on principle. Like that's the only explanation I can see for why he didn't, as soon as they let him out, start making plans to leave.
Exactly. Eric Suarez, if it ever comes to show that such country... Oh, no, got that one. Sorry about that. Peter Aurora Hodges, thank you, guys. You're my favorite dissidents. Appreciate that. Thank you. Papa Shuffler says, I'm a bit behind, but the Trump dance is called the Epstein and Adelson. There you go. Thank you for that. Good one. Okay. Imagine, says Centerpiece Entertainment, the payback from the Dems when they get the White House back. This movement will be Mussolini light. Well, there's always the risk of escalation.
There's that too.
Thanks, guys. I'm new here. You guys seem honest and worth subscribing to. Thank you, Alexander. Appreciate that.
Thank you.
Thanks very much, and thanks for being here. And smash that subscribe button. Oh, by the way, we are at 1,031 likes. And we're at 2595 in the YouTube chat.
2525.
All right. Let's see here. Jolly Man Big Boy says, I wonder how long it'll take for all these right-wing influencers who hate Israel to realize that their entire philosophy they profited off was fascist propaganda meant to divide America. Yeah, that is a good point. Vito P says, you guys are right. They will come for all of us. Cancer sucks. You guys rock. Thank you, Vito. You rock. Kimmel says, Russ and Keaton, you guys have been everywhere this week, constantly working. You're like James Brown because you must be doing a lot of cocaine to keep going. No, just coffee. That's
what I said. We're the hardest working men in podcasting.
Yeah, exactly. Stoop sign. Tucker needs to invest in a vest and something to protect his head and neck. Yeah, it's a dangerous world. Judy Denmark, good news. I'm a Danish citizen. I can marry Russ and we could try to adopt Keaton. Broadcast from Denmark. By the way, are you allergic to cats? No, we love cats. Yeah. Hey, that may be a plan. We'll be in touch. Yes.
We'll see how I like Asia.
Yeah, right, exactly. Vienticus Prime says people will boost America as the greatest country in the world. Well, like vaccine risk reduction, there's the relative and the absolute. Thank you, Vienticus Prime. Odds Kirk assassination was an Israeli operation. I mean, we might have Max on Sunday. I'll ask that to him. He's a smarter man than me.
Yeah.
Maybe he can narrow it down for you.
He knows things.
Yeah. Did you see those women call Kash Patel a cuck for Israel and Trump a Nazi? If we are going to avoid fascism, it will be because of women, because we created a society of weak men like Joe Rogan. I did see that video, actually.
Did you? I didn't see that.
Yep. Let's see. Noah Goop said one of the other super chatters mentioned Canadian Prepper. He would be a great guest. I recommend his last interview with Professor Morandi. It was great. All right. Thanks, Noah. Appreciate that very much. Okay. Vienticus Prime says the true price of freedom is vigilance and tolerance, yet its consequence is complacency. Remember that when you see all these people loving free speech while not knowing what words mean. Thanks, Vienticus Prime. Thanks, Vienticus Prime, for making your way over to our channel. We've seen you super chat over on Jimmy's a lot. Thanks for being here.
Thank you, man.
Elevating the dialogue. It's a privilege to be in precious dialogue with Brother Prime, as Cornel West would say. YouTuber Canadian Prepper said when Elon bought Twitter and said it was about free speech, it could really be like the 100 Flowers campaign to suss out dissent. Gaza is the test by phone. Eliminate dissent. I think we got that one from EO Shush. I think you sent that again. Appreciate that. You could see the blood libel coming out of Megan's eyes or whatever it was coming out of. Yeah, exactly. Yes. He should have said that. All righty. Why don't we move right on along? Segment number 5.
All right. This is what I call my traveling in China in the spring insurance.
Yes.
I get detained. I'm going to show them this segment.
Right.
I was with you guys the whole time. So this was so China has spoken quite a lot about the situation in Gaza and in Palestine over the last couple of years. Indeed, prior to that, they recognized the Palestinian state, as most of the world does. This was China's legal advisor to their foreign ministry speaking on their behalf at the ICJ back in 2024.
The Palestinian-Israeli conflict stems from Israel's prolonged occupation of Palestinian territory and Israel's long-standing oppression of the Palestinian people. The Palestinian people fight against Israeli oppression and their struggle for completing establishment of an independent state on the occupied territory are essentially just actions for restoring their legitimate rights. The right to self-determination served as precise legal foundation for their struggle.
So if you listen to his extended remarks, which are available online, he makes the legal argument citing the relevant articles of international law that as a colonized people, they have a right to self-defense, including through military means. Now, this escalated the war of words with Israel and China a bit this week when Netanyahu claimed that China and Qatar are manipulating the internet against Israel. Countries like Qatar and China have invested, I'll turn that down a little bit, have invested and continue to invest enormous sums to influence Western media with an anti-Israel agenda using bots, artificial intelligence, publications. You open your phone and you're bombarded. You see it first and foremost on TikTok. There's no doubt at all. It's a thing with much greater power than traditional media. It's swaying the traditional media, which is joining, back a little bit, which is joining the Islamic minorities who are opposed to the politics of Western governments. And so this situation puts us in a kind of isolation. Can we get out of this isolation? Yes. But first of all, yes, we can fight on the media front. We will have to invest in it. It's kind of casts this whole thing of Ellison, the largest donor to the IDF, taking over CBS, installing Barry Weiss there as a political commissar, and taking over TikTok in conjunction with Humpty Dumpty, Mark Andreessen, who also does a lot of business with Israel and has a lot of venture capital investments in Israel, kind of cast that in a certain light as he lays all this out. Now, China actually responded to this. China slams PM's accusation of media blockade, says Israel needs political intelligence. Yeah, it's not all they need. A spokesperson for the Chinese embassy in Israel criticizes those remarks. Quote, China is shocked by the declaration of the Israeli leader regarding China. The remarks have no basis in fact, hurt China-Israel relations, and China strongly opposes them. The accusation that China is using social media to attack Israel, it says, treats the symptom instead of the real issue. The statement adds that much of the international community has called for a ceasefire in the Gaza war and chides Netanyahu's policy. Quote, Israel does not need endless war, but diplomacy that brings peace, it says. To solve the current crisis, Israel needs political intelligence and creative diplomacy, not just military operations and endless attacks. Now, this clip has gone viral of a confrontation between an Israeli military officer and a Chinese professor and dean, says Arnaud Bertrand, setting it up. Absolutely extraordinary exchange between Israel and China. I've never seen such a heated exchange come out of top-level forum in China. This is the 12th Beijing Zhangshan Forum that started yesterday. This normally never happens. The guy speaking is Yan Zutang, the dean of the Institute of International Relations at Tsinghua University, the most prestigious university in China. Speaking for Israel is a military officer, apparently called Alad Shoshan. So let's take a look at this. This is a really remarkable exchange.
Real reason of this war is that it.
All right, first of all, I will turn it down for you.
This is the terror organization. The real reason of this war is that this is the terror organization Hamas that's still holding our hostages. So the replace the UN you suggest is sound very smart between countries. What we need to do about the terror organization?
My answer is very clear.
Yeah.
Your military people should shoot the terrorists, not the children, not the women. We shoot the children and the women, and you lack legitimacy to carry out any actions in that reason. For instance, and when we have the robbers get in the bank, they rob the bank, they use the staff and the customer as a human shield. You're a policeman. If you do not kill the staff, bank staff, and the customer, you cannot catch the robbers. How can you do it? Do you think you should kill the customer and the staff first?
We really do all what we can not to hurt the citizens.
That's right, yeah.
You kill more than 70,000 civilians.
No,
there are more than the terrorists.
This is not fact, right?
Okay.
It's actually way more than that.
The fact is not decided by you. The facts is decided by the international community. It's not decided by your government. Your government have no legitimacy and the right to decide or defend what is fact.
Okay. The terror attack, the terror organization, what the solution in your way of...
My solution is that go to the UN, work with the UN, and agree the two-state solution to establish a state of Palestine. Then you have two states, and you can work together with the Palestinians together to fight against terrorists. If you do not work with the Palestinians together, you can never win the war over terrorists.
But this specific war will end when the terror organization will release all our hostages and will give up his weapon, because we can't stop the war as long as we have the hostages.
No, this kind of propaganda have too many. No one believe it.
Too many what?
Too many. Too much. No one believe it. Except few Israelis.
So that's the best thing you're going to see all week. Yeah, as you were starting to point out during the clip, and he's just going with the very low estimate from the Gaza ministry because they cannot do any more counting because it's impossible to go through Gaza and actually count the dead. There are estimates as high as 250,000 and higher that are dead. Certainly 70,000 is an underestimate. But that was really amazing when he says at the end there, yeah, no one believes you. A few Israelis, no one believes you. And that is true. And you have to imagine he would not have said such a thing without some go-ahead from the administration in China to have that kind of a public confrontation with an Israeli military representative at a conference like that.
Oh, of course.
Now, and to go to what a load of horseshit what the Israeli is saying is, this broke right before this. Days after Israel attempted to kill the entire Hamas negotiating team to end hostage talks, Finance Minister Smotrich lets the truth out. Gaza is a real estate bonanza, and Israel is working with Trump Inc. to exploit the ethnic cleansing to reap profits off beachside land. That's Max's summary, and this video was put out by Suppressed News. Let's go back and let me turn it down so you can hear the translation. Let's talk about the day after the war in terms of real estate. You have often spoken about the renewal of Jewish settlement in the Gaza Strip. Should turn it down a little more. Where, in your opinion, should the first settlement in the Strip be established? It's funny. I admit I didn't expect this. Just so you know, it's not funny. There's a business plan. Listen to me carefully. There's a business plan set by the most professional people there are. And it's on President Trump's table. And how this thing turns into a real estate bonanza. I'm not kidding. It pays off. I have started negotiations with the Americans. I say this not jokingly now because I also demand. We paid a lot of money for this war. So we need to divide how we make a percentage on the land marketing later in Gaza. And now, no kidding, we've done the demolition phase, which is always the first phase of urban renewal.
Yeah, we know.
Now we need to build. It's much cheaper. See?
Wow. Yep.
See? So you have,
right?
Yeah. So you have the military officer there claiming this is about the hostages. It's very clear at this point. The plan is to ethnically cleanse Gaza and do Trump Gaza. Do what Trump said straight out. Every now and then, there's one of the things about Trump. He's such a moron. He'll say the soft part out loud. He'll say things that no one who's more astute would say publicly. Yeah, this is the plan. Trump Gaza, man. Get them out, and they're going to build. They're going to make it Fort Lauderdale. They want to build beachfront property. They want to build hotels. They want to build resorts. And the bonus for the real estate developers, as he's describing, is, yeah, well, look, the military already took care of the clearing the land, right? It saves you a lot of money when they just bomb everything down to the ground. You don't have to bring in the bulldozers or anything.
You don't have to fund it yourself. The Americans pay for it.
Yeah, it's already leveled. So good on China. They've been very strong on this from pretty early on, as you could see from the stance they took in the ICJ. And now it seems like they're escalating their rhetoric to another level. Good for them.
Yeah. No, I mean, it is good to see the emergent world power at least express some sort of humanity on this. It's just common sense. It's just common sense, as the man was saying. He says, nobody believes this. Nobody believes this. He says, it's too many. What do you mean, but too many? He meant the propaganda is too much. It's too much for most people to believe. It's too much, right? Except for a handful of Israelis. Yeah.
Well, it's very interesting when you look at that part of the world where the pressures and the history and the cultural factors and the AIPAC money, these things are just not at play there.
Right.
Israel does not have that kind of control, that kind of influence. You don't have these large populations of Zionists in these countries affecting public opinion and the political process. So naturally, it's as plain as the nose on your face that these people are committing a genocide. And it's absurd to try to pretend that this is complicated. It's as obvious as it could be.
Yes, 100%. All right. Folks, hey, if you like what we do here and you want to help us do more of it, the best way to do so is by becoming a member. The membership links are right at the top of the screen. DoDissidents.com/Patreon//Substack or /Locals. Membership starts at just $5 per month, and it gets you access to once a month. We do a post game for members only, which is additional segments plus a call-in Q&A for paid members. We also do film club live streams every month. We're doing 2 film clubs this month since we had to postpone last month because the filming schedule became out of whack in St. Louis. Looks like we're going to be doing film club on Monday. We'll finalize that on Sunday, but it looks like Monday night is when we'll be doing our first of 2 film clubs in September. We also give you guys call-in access to all of our Q&As, which take place once a week, every Sunday night on Rumble after the main show. You get your name up in lights here on the show credits. You also get an end credit in our upcoming documentary on the Uhuru movement in St. Louis. And you also get replays of every live stream ad-free emailed to you the day after they air on the public wave. So if you miss a show and you want to watch it back free of ad interruption, you can do so by checking your email if you're a member. So thank you all very much for your support. Our members are, of course, the backbone of the show. EO Shush says, and I don't know why I post my previous chat. Sorry for the repeat about Twitter. No worries. Nujoma, what about Brigitte Macron as the culprit to distract Candace? Yeah, exactly. Latest article from Michael Tracy says, Noah Goop, unraveling the Woody Allen hysteria. That's a good one. Yeah, that would be a good one. He should write a Woody Allen article. Thank you. For Zen's sake, says Israel's not banning what the Nazis are called Entarte Kurtz, degenerate art. Absolutely not. That's blood libel. Bibi soon. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Vienticus Prime, actually, a lot of what I do is quote my own writings like the ginormous asshole that I am. That's all right, Vienticus Prime.
That's okay.
No worries at all. That's okay. It's A-okay. Oh, George says, hey, happy Jew year to all. Russ, do you follow Isabel Oakeshott for laughs or for self-flagellation or both? I can only imagine the fun things she has to say. One post was enough for me.
Did I use a slide? You got to remember, very often when we're doing research, we're not necessarily familiar with the poster, but if they have the best summation of the information we want in the piece, we'll use them.
Right.
So I'm assuming that must be someone I used.
Okay. 007 Angelo says, holy crap, what a shit show that Bad Faith show was. I had to hit mute after a while. No need to comment on what I just said. Keaton was right on. It was fine.
Yeah.
No, it's not. No worries. It's fine.
Yeah.
No, we left on very good terms. No problem there. I had a good time on the show. Recent Onion article. Bree is a lawyer. She's
that was
a good sparring partner. She's better.
My only complaint is I could have gone to the gym because that was about an hour and a half of Keaton and Bree not letting it go.
Yeah. My only complaint is that
I'm just like,
be there. Yeah. My only complaint is that I had to be there for it.
Yeah.
That's other than that, I think it went great. Yeah. Sammy, recent Onion article to be fired for reading this headline about Charlie Kirk. Alexander says, genuinely no sarcasm I take is that probably Tyler was MK Ultra'd into doing Mossad's bidding. Yeah, that could be it too.
I mean, That's what I said on Katie's.
Right. Nas M, is Candace filling in this week too? That would drive the right crazy. Yeah, exactly. Andy Gardner, Khalil seems like the courageous type. Can't stop fascists without fighters and militant left as Hedges preaches. Dead Cat Blues Band, thank you for covering Sudan on Jimmy Dore's show. Yep. Appreciate that. Thank
Our
you
pleasure.
for that. Rontier Oligarch says Dimitri Laskaris toured one of the new Zionist colonies in Cyprus, showed a Coca-Cola style advertisement saying enjoy genocide. Interesting. You know, there are a couple of grocery stores around here who sell like the Palestine cola. Not the big box stores, but some independent like bodegas.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. Oh, look at that. Mr. Fancy Pants, $99.99. Wow. Thank you. That's very kind of you, my friend. Appreciate that very much. I really liked your segment on social media you did on Sunday. I think it was a really important point you guys made and inspired me to back off from social media. See? Good.
See, that's what we do it for.
That's what we do it for. The only problem is I don't know what to do during the day when I'm supposed to be working. Yeah, there you go. There you go. Well, that is the challenge. But, hey, thank you for the generous donation, and thanks for letting us know that. It does mean a lot to know that, you know, it makes a difference. And I hope it makes a positive difference in your life for sure. All right, folks, I want to read you something from John Coa, A Moment of Your Time. John Coa has a new single out. It's called Just a Little Off the Rails. And for those familiar with John's work, this is the latest preview from his upcoming album. The foundation of these tracks began as raw live acoustic performances captured a few years ago. Initially, John considered releasing just these solo acoustic versions, but he found it easier to make the art than to put it out. Now these tracks are seeing the light of day. Just a Little Off the Rails is the first single. It's an autobiographical song with lyrics that may hit home for a lot of people. So go to John Coa's Spotify page to check it out. You can also go to dodissidents.com/Coa, and that gives you a link to all of John's socials. So that's dodissidents.com/Coa, and help support our dissident artists in the space here. All right, we got time for one more. I'll make this a quick one, but this is a good one. I really wanted to do this one. So, folks, here's a crazy headline out of Haaretz. Government says it will cut Israeli Film Academy funding after film depicting Israel negatively wins. You heard that correctly. So there's a movie out. It's called The Sea. This was made in Israel by Israeli filmmakers. You can read the synopsis right here. Khalil, a 12-year-old boy from a Palestinian village, gets the chance to see the sea for the first time in his life on a school trip. But when they reach a military checkpoint, the soldiers claim his permit is invalid and send him back home while his classmates continue their trip. Deeply disappointed, Khaled sets out to the sea on his own, even though he doesn't know the way and doesn't speak Hebrew. When his father, Bibi, an undocumented laborer working in Israel, learns that his son is missing, he leaves his job in search for him, risking arrest and the loss of his livelihood. So that is the thrust of the film. We'll play the trailer here. It is subtitled. I'm not going to read along with it. So if you're listening on audio, go watch the video version on Spotify for this part.
شو اخبار خالد؟ مش بدت اليوم؟
لا راح على البحر.
وانت لا؟
لا ماش تصريح.
احسن لك. شوف هي البحر رمل ووسخ وكرف وشمس، بتعوف حالك.
وليش؟ ابوي حكى مع المحامي بده يدبر لي التصريح.
كله خليه يدبرها على السريع، لانه اذا مرقت جيل 14 تقدرش تطلع تصريح شيلي.
وانا كدك يا ستي فتشرت اني بحياتي ما راح اشوف البحر، بس شفته. بكيت صرت اختياره بس شفته.
بديش استنى بنت تصير اختيار.
الو
ربحي يما.
ايه يما.
خالد اختفى.
شو؟
راح الجدار وفات منه. من وين بفوتوا العمال؟
רווחי, אתה לא יכול לתת באמצע יום עבודה. אני הבטחתי לשלמה שאנחנו מסיימים עד יום שישי, אני צריך אותך. אתה מבין מה יקרה אם יתפסו אותך? זה בית סוהר בטוח.
אבל זה הבן שלי.
هات الأجار عمي، هات الأجار.
هاي هذول.
2 شيكل؟ انزل عمي، انزل الله يسهل عليك، انزل.
تعالي تودع تزور بكشة. يما.
شو صار؟
أنا بالطريق، في شيء ضروري يما؟
سمعت إنه صاير إشي بالقدس، سمعت؟
لا.
استشهد ولد وكله بده يشيل خالد.
من وين أنت؟ الرمل.
لوين بدك تروح؟
على البحر.
שלום, שרה.
רווחי? מה אתה עושה פה?
אני מחפש את הילד שלי. יכול להיות שהוא כאן, בן 12, בגובה כזה?
לא, הוא לא היה פה.
Okay, so that is the film. Now, once again, so this film wins basically the Israeli Oscar, and now they are going to get to submit the film to the American Oscars for consideration in the Best Foreign Film category. And as retaliation for this, the Israeli government says it will cut Israeli Film Academy funding after film depicting Israel negatively wins. So funding for Israel's top film awards will be suspended after the Culture and Sports Ministry claimed the winning film about a Palestinian boy from the West Bank trying to see the sea for the first time defames the IDF and Israel. The Sea won the category for Best Film at the Israeli Film Academy's Ofer Awards, which are the leading award ceremony for Israel's film and television industry. The movie will go on to be considered at the Academy Awards in March 2026. Israel's Ministry of Culture and Sports added the film presents the Palestinian perspective and depicts the IDF and Israel in a negative light, calling the win outrageous and claiming without citation that it angered many Israeli citizens and IDF soldiers who dedicate their lives to defending the homeland, prompting him to announce the withdrawal of government funding for the embarrassing ceremony. Tell me this is not something that, like, Donald Trump might do, right? I mean,
Yes.
you can see why he loves them so much and why they love him so much. Culture and Sports Minister Miki Zohar, a member of Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's Likud party, added in a personal statement, "There is no greater insult to the citizens of Israel than the annual embarrassing and disconnected Ofer Awards. The fact that the winning film portrays our heroic soldiers in a defamatory and false manner while they risk their lives to protect us no longer surprises anyone." In response, the Academy, led by Chair Asaf Amir, stated without directly addressing the funding threat, "The Sea tells the story of a Palestinian boy from a small village near Ramallah whose one wish is to travel to Tel Aviv and see the sea he has never seen." Film selections and awards are determined by Academy members, all of whom are filmmakers and cultural professionals who choose the best works of Israeli cinema based on artistic excellence, creative freedom, and freedom of expression. The Academy chair hinted at Zohar in his remarks, calling the selection of the film a decisive and resonant response to calls to boycott the Israeli industry. So you see, the Academy didn't want to be boycotted, so they felt, hey, you know what? Like, this is, I mean, not that it should have worked, but he's saying, hey, there are these 4,000, movie people who are boycotting the industry. Maybe as a show of good faith, we award this film and you don't shut us down for it, right? But no such luck. I am proud that an Arabic language film created through collaboration between Jewish and Palestinian Israelis will represent Israel at the Oscars, Amir said. Key point, Israelis. This was not made in the occupied territories. It was an Israeli movie.
And this is amazing because they spend so much time trying to tell people it's not an apartheid state. We have Israeli Arabs. Why would you not want to elevate this film?
Right, exactly. Like, this is the best Hasbara you have. Look, there's a film that's about a Palestinian boy. We gave it the award. We celebrated the film. See, we're not the apartheid state you tell us we are. But no, instead they do this. It's just incredible. In an interview with Haaretz's Sharon Falasab 2 months ago, director of the film, last name Pollack, said, "This is a road movie between the West Bank and Tel Aviv and reflects my own experience over years of attending protests in the occupied territories, especially against the barrier. You'd arrive at these seemingly pastoral places, olive trees, quiet rural homes, and then suddenly armed forces would show up, completely indifferent to the people living there, uprooting trees and destroying lives," he said. And then I'd go back to Tel Aviv where everything is normal. People shopping, sitting in cafes. That disconnect also found its way into the film. He added, I don't expect the film to change minds, but maybe it can open a window, a crack, a glimpse into another perspective. Well, not if the government has any say in it. So again, this is the democracy in the Middle East,
Yes.
where a movie made in Israel that is sympathetic to the Palestinian perspective wins this award, gets a chance to compete in America. What if this wins the award in America? Doesn't that make Israel look a little better? But no, they don't want that. No. If this is at all sympathetic to the Palestinian perspective, we're going to punish the Israeli Oscars basically for voting in this movie as a representative to the U.S. Oscars. Just amazing. Amazing. And this is why they have no self-awareness and no awareness of why this stuff is just not working anymore. But to the average person, you look at that and you say, why the hell would you do that? Why would you do that?
Yeah.
How self-sabotaging is it to do that? But they don't see it that way.
The talentless directors made a film that all people hate.
Yeah.
It's just the anti-Israeli Film Academy voted for it just because they hate the Israeli people. They're not real Israelis. It's a very Trumpian move. And increasingly, you're just seeing with Israel, their, challenge, resistance, having to be clever makes you smarter, makes you more capable. Being able to work with such impunity for 3/4 of a century has left them completely incapable of managing this moment where the entire world is waking up to what Israel really is. And they're lazy. They're lazy propagandists because they've been able to be. They're coming out of a world, I keep saying we want to do this on a movie night, but I can't find a complete version of it, where Barbara Streisand hosted this, I think it was an ABC special honoring, I think it was the 50th anniversary of Israel. And that's the world they're used to functioning in. They think it's still that world. Like if you watch it now, you want to see how people's perspectives have changed. You could never make that special today. And even before October 7th, like this just absolutely uncritical celebration of Israel like that. That is the atmosphere, the media atmosphere they're used to operating in. And it shows here where you don't even have people making these decisions who have the subtlety of mind to say, hey, wait a second. We're trying to convince everybody we're not an apartheid state. And you have this joint film about a Palestinian that's very sympathetic, that's made with Palestinians and Israelis. This is great. Let's jump on this. Push it to the rafter. You see how crazy these film professionals are to boycott Israel? Look at the kind of project that would be shut down if everyone listened to these crazed anti-Semites. I mean, you probably shouldn't go that way, but it would be a lot better if you built it off this.
Right.
Than building it off. What do you mean? Genocide, schmenocide.
Yeah, right. Exactly. So I just thought that was a story that caught my eye yesterday. Glad we could fit that in. All right. China Shell says, all I'm saying is if my husband got murdered, I wouldn't be posting videos of his corpse and making threats for political points. That's disgusting. That's just me, I guess. Not celebration, shit talk, tax. Yeah, so look, China Shell.
Yeah, I mean, those videos were weird. I'll grant you that.
Yeah, but what I would say to that is like, look, man, I could tell you, as a married guy, if God forbid it were my spouse in the casket, I don't know what I would do. And I don't think any of us know what we would do. So, that's another example of something where I'm like, yeah, it may look a little strange, may look a little weird, but this is part of what I'm talking about is like, don't let an online impulse affect, like what you read into a real world situation. Like, yeah, did the video look strange? Yeah, but you know what? If I were in that situation, I have no idea what I would do. I'm in no position to judge. Like, that's what I mean. Like, give a little space there, as opposed to Destiny, who, you know, makes fun of her. You know what I mean? Like that's what I would say to that. China Shill says, I'm not celebrating anything, by the way. I know you're making a point. Bienticus Prime, it's almost like God promised them the land in order for them to auction it off to the highest bidder. That's what's written, right? Yeah, I guess so, according to Pencil Smotrich. Yeah, no, I mean, well, that's the thing, man. He just admits outright. He's like, what does he say? He says the first stage was emptying it out. As if, like, they're just admitting that this was the plan all along. It was obvious it was the plan all along. I knew it on October 9th that was the plan all along. So, it's been completely obvious the whole time.
Yeah, I mean, you can look at a map of the creeping Israeli territory into Palestinian territory to know the plan. This is an acceleration of the plan.
Right. All right, everybody. Well, that is our show. We appreciate you all very much for being here. Thanks to all the YouTubers and the Rumblers. Thanks to the mods for keeping the peace in the chat. Appreciate you all. Thanks for sticking with us through a very, very eventful week. Appreciate you all. What is this, our 7th show in 5 days? I think so. Right?
Yeah.
Pretty crazy stuff. But thank you all for being with us. Appreciate you all very much. We will be back on Sunday night at 7 p.m. Eastern. Smash that like button on the way out. Smash that subscribe button on the way out over on YouTube, and that follow button over on Rumble. And we will see you all Sunday evening at 7 p.m. Until then, be safe and be well.
Courage!
Please clap.